Welcome back to the Cornea Impression, and today with us we have the BMW S1000 RR. This bike has a cult following. It was first introduced in 2009, and that's when most of you guys, like me, started putting up BMW motorcycle posters on their bedroom walls. If not, then you have been a bike enthusiast way longer than I have, and you're much more older than me as well, that's for sure. But yeah, this bike is essentially what put BMW motorcycles out there for poster boys, made it a fan following. If back in 2009, if you remember the bike, it had the offset headlamps. That was not just for design, that was for physics. Those offset headlamps were there to balance out the weight on both the sides. If you had a cross section, it's to balance out the weight on the bike. This is the third generation of the S1000 that we have here. This is the RR variant. There is an M Pro package that you get with this bike, and then there is also the M bike that you get, or the M1000 RR, which is a crazy bike. That's essentially a bike that you take to a track. With the S1000 RR that we have here, this is a bike that we have been riding for a couple of days. We have come to Jebel Jais just to experience this bike out on these curvy stretches of roads. And man, have I fallen in love with this. The moment I took the delivery of the bike and I let go of the clutch, I was under the impression, maybe the bike does not seem to have that much of power. But then as I started to ride it, the linear power delivery that the BMW S1000 RR has is just beautiful. And where better to experience it than out here on the curves of Jebel Jais. I would like to talk more about the S1000 RR, but we have some really good sunlight right now, way less traffic on the roads. So I think what we should do is head out, hit some corners, and then talk more about the bike. This bike weighs 197 kilograms with all the fluids in place, with 130 Newton meters of torque, 206 brake horsepower. There is no angle of attack. There is absolutely no place that you feel that, yeah, you're lacking power. BMW has done a great deal with respect to the electronics as well. You have many customizations that are available. There's a wheelie control to it. You can see to it that the system controls your wheelie, and then if you want to go all out, you can even turn it off. So there are levels to it. Man, this feels so much at home. Absolutely nothing that I had to unlearn to ride this bike. As a matter of fact, I'm able to push the bike where I want it, and it goes exactly where I want. So you have different modes on it. Right now I'm riding on the Race Pro 1 mode. There are other two customizations that you can do to the Race Pro mode. Apart from that, you have the Dynamic, which does give you access to pretty much everything but your ABS, the dynamic control, the wheelie control is sort of slightly curved off. And then you have the Race Pro 1, Race Pro 2 and the Race Pro 3 mode, where you will be able to customize the bike's internal settings. For the amount of money that people say that, you know, German cars and bikes are expensive, that BMW S1000 RR is expensive. Well, yeah, it's expensive because, well, just hear the engine, even try to feel it. It is so smooth, it's butter smooth, it's very linear power delivery, so you have very good confidence on the bike even if you're a new rider. You have cruise control, which you don't really find on other bikes. There's some bikes that you can find. I mean, it's not a cruiser bike, but you can. That in itself says that this is a bike that you can go on the track with. This is a bike that can be a daily rider bike, and this is also a bike that you can take for those long distance journeys. I mean, you have heated grips. How crazy is that? It's been done before, it's nothing new. But then to have that in a sports bike, at least for me, that is something really crazy.
Now that was an epic ride on the mountains.
What a brilliant machine. I mean, there's a reason why there's a huge fan following. It's not just about the looks, but the way the bike performs and handles. Okay, yeah, it's not been in MotoGP yet. Keep in mind, this was BMW's first super sport bike. The first ever. They took their time. Everybody else was out there already doing it. But BMW took their time, designed this bike. In 2008, they put it out, but because of homologation rules, they had to produce a number of them. They produced 100 bikes, and then by 2009 is when we first had a production ready, the S1000 RR available to us. Since then, the bike has seen multiple upgrades and changes, all for the betterment. If you go back to 2009, take this first generation, and then you bring in this, there is absolutely nothing about the bike which is similar, except possibly the BMW logo and the badging. Everything else on the bike is fresh, redesigned. So there's a huge difference between the first generation, second generation, and the third generation is just leaps ahead. Now this is a BMW. With BMW, if you ask any of the BMW followers or people who drive BMWs, they are very driver-centric. And such as this bike. It's very rider-centric. You're comfortable, you are aided with the electronics. A lot of people do hate that, but then it's non-intrusive. You can turn it off completely. There are a plethora of options that are available through the onboard computer that you can customize. You can tailor-make it to your riding style. Now, those are not things that are available in this series of bikes. By the way, did you know that BMW was the first manufacturer to introduce ABS on motorcycles? Nobody had done that before. That is how they think about the riders. And it's being said that in the later series of bikes as well, they were the first ones to introduce ABS. I've not been able to fact check it, but if you guys have any updates that you would like me to enlighten with, do leave us a comment there. And also a subscribe and a like button will do us a great deal. Let's start from the front, talk about the front design, and then gradually move to the back of the bike, because there's a lot that has happened. Starting with this front design nose now, which is much more wider thanks to the wider winglets. Speaking of the winglets, there is a dual tone fiber here. They haven't just added a sticker there. It's a fiber there to give you that dual tone feel. That's BMW. That's how they pay attention to the looks. The front hugger as well, which is on the front wheel, now also has air ducts to cool your brake calipers. How neat is that? And this comes in as standard. You can also offer many other things that we'll talk about, but that's just nice having a MotoGP tech, though it's not been in MotoGP, to have it right here. That's brilliantly done. Even the side fairing has now much more changed. You still have a dual tone fiber here, a little bit of the exposed chassis here. Now, initially you had a stress bearing engine or the chassis mounted onto the engine. Now that has changed. You have a single frame chassis with the engine slung down, and then this fairing here covers it. We had to move from that location, but let's continue. Coming back to the fairing. Now I was on the opposite side. Here you can see much more detail of the bike. On the other side, there's a quick shifter as well, which is not visible right now, but we'll have a B-roll where you'll be able to see. But yeah, I was talking about how well ventilated the inline-four here is, which comes into play, especially when you're riding in trafficated areas, so the engine will not heat up that much. So that's nice. Also, if you notice this cover here, initially it was bronze coated, bronze powder coated, now it's black. A lot of the details in this bike are now black. Quite honestly, I would have also loved the foot peg being black, which is available in the M package. The exhaust as well, which is Ackerpoich. It is not deafeningly loud, it's decent, but if you take out the muffler here quietly, it's gonna turn out to be a nice sounding engine. I mean, the overall rhythm that this engine generates is beautiful. Now that I'm already here at the back of the bike, let's address the swing arm. The swing arm on the new S1000 RR is much more wider, and also the wheelbase has increased a little bit as compared to the older version, because of which the bike now feels much more comfortable, because of which you have much more control over the power that this bike delivers. I have mentioned earlier, it's 205 brake horsepower, 203 to be precise brake horsepower, and 113 Newton meters of torque that this bike has going directly to the rear wheel. The bike does rev up to about 14,000. Right now, when I did take the delivery of the bike, it was only 600 kilometers that this bike had done. So it's not completely unlocked. The first service is pending, so I'm limited to about 8,000 or 9,000. So I've not been able to push the bike that much. But even with that, I've not found the bike anywhere sluggish. Maybe traffic, maybe open roads. At Jabal Jaz, I was going all out, as you guys saw. It was nice going all out with the limitations that I had on the bike. But still, it was decently comfortable and nice to ride. But despite the limitations that I had with the bike, with respect to the total RPM that I can achieve or the max speed that I can get on this bike, I was still enjoying at Jabal Jaz with the curves. I could just throw this bike around the curves. It kept the grip. That being said, I did have one close call while I was trying to record a piece to camera. Thanks to the bike's electronics, I was able to handle it quite well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been having this piece to the camera going on. But that's all thanks to BMW and the wizardry that they've done with respect to the safety measurements that they have in the bike. Speaking about safety, it does come with a dual channel ABS, and the bike controls or adds braking to both the wheels irrespective of which brake lever you're using. That can be turned off completely, but in most of the modes it stays active. There's also DDC, which is dynamic damping control that this bike has. There's also rebound control, which again can be tweaked into multiple formats that you want. So essentially what you have is a track ready bike which can be customized as per your preference even when you're out on the road or when you take the bike on the track. 16.5 liters of fuel capacity with 3 liters of reserve is good enough to get you from here to Jabal Jaz and back, which is about 300 kilometers, with one fuel up in between. And in case you're going all out on those curves, yes, you're going to need a second fuel up, which I have done. But that's not bad for a bike in a detail class series to deliver that sort of performance. The clutch is silky smooth, because of which it's relatively very easy. Why am I saying relatively? It's extremely easy to pull off in traffic or even start off at signals. So overall, this has been a wonderful experience. If there's one thing on this bike that I've not liked, and forgive me for this BMW, it's not your fault, it's me, is this seat. So from the factory you get this seat. There are multiple options that you have available. I have unfortunately got the seat which is slightly shorter and narrower, which is good for people who are shorter, and I'm 6 feet tall. I would have loved a nicely cushioned seat which would be slightly wide as well, which is available through BMW. So if you are out there looking for a BMW S1000 RR, when you take a test ride, do keep your height into account, because your riding position might be right, but you need to account for the seat. A good amount of cushioning will be necessary if you're doing long distance rides. For track, this is a perfect seat, but if you're doing long distance rides or even riding a lot in the city, you will need a nice cushioned seat, which is something BMW does offer. So do check it out, do opt it out. So should you purchase a BMW S1000 RR? Yes, if you are a person who's been riding a 600cc bike and want to switch to a liter series of bikes, this is an amazing machine to opt for. Even if you're a person who is just wanting to buy a motorcycle, has had a little bit of experience, but then you want to switch to a liter series of bikes directly and you have the dough and the money for it, yes, it's slightly more expensive with respect to the maintenance. Even the oil change will be a little more expensive than the other bikes. But then what you get for that cost is the badge value. It's a premium bike and that comes with it. There's a lot of tech that has gone in. There's a lot of refinement that you get for a product or your money. So yeah, this is definitely worth your consideration. Test ride it. Make sure that the seat that you choose is right for you. This is Aurelius from the Cornea Impression signing off, and this has been the review of the magnificent BMW S1000 RR.